Do you ever find yourself dreaming of something that seems impossible to attain? How do you find the clarity to choose between realistic goals and fantasies not worth pursuing? Today I am bringing to you the memoir of one of those fantasies. A project so unrealistic, so wild and unheard of before, that made history and astounded the whole world. A woman like no other, a life worth reading. Alexandra David-Néel and her most famous book, Voyage d'une parisienne à Lhassa, translated as My Journey to Lhassa.
L'on s'est beaucoup mépris en Europe, et certainement aussi en Amérique, sur ce qui s'est passé au Tibet et sur ce qui s'y passe actuellement.
Louise Eugénie Alexandrine Marie David was born in Paris on the 24th of October 1868, in an austere family of quite older parents. She lives a childhood enchanted by the stories of Jules Verne and dreams of escaping her family. Before the age of 15, she becomes interested in ascetic practices, and further on joins various secret societies as well as anarchist and feminist groups. At the age of 21, she converts to Buddhism and starts learning Sanskrit and Tibetan. It is the beginning of her career as an Orientalist. A not-so-fortunate marriage with Philippe Nel becomes an epistolary love story as she leaves for India in 1911, promising to get back in 19 months. She will return to him 14 years later. Her Asian tour is described in detail in her various books, but what made her famous was the courage to start a journey through one of the most inhospitable landscapes in the world, in order to reach a city forbidden to foreigners. She traveled to the forbidden city of Lhassa, disguised as a beggar, and lived there for 2 months, documenting a culture that was unknown to the Western world. One of the most fascinating memoirs that I read, the journey of a European woman through the rugged Himalayas to reach her dream, the elusive Lhasa, capital of Tibet, where no European had set foot ever before. How does it make me feel? Free, incredibly free. To travel, to study, to simply observe. This memoir gives me an appetite for knowledge like no other. And through knowledge, it makes me feel incredibly lucky to be living in such a diverse world. Number 1. A lesson in mindful travel. It always baffles me when I ask a friend, "So how was your trip to Malaysia or Mexico or some faraway exotic place?" And the answer is something like, "Oh, it's beautiful, the food was great." And that's it. What I love about Alexandra David-Neel's travel memoirs is that she was observing everything. If you pay close attention to the way she tells the story, you get a glimpse of her mental structure and the way she practiced the art of traveling. She describes nature and landscape as much as she gives details of cultural habits, local food, specific communication skills, and of course, spiritual practices. She was perfectly aware that by documenting all of this, she brought back in the Western world information never heard of before. So even if my own travels in today's world are slightly less groundbreaking, I learned a lot from her way of looking at a new place. Travel with curiosity. Tune your antennas to the sense of local vibes. How is it different than your everyday life? How can you improve your living now that you know more about the world? Number 2. The strength of a woman. I won't go into feminist details, as I believe her life work speaks for itself. But what I specifically liked in this book was the message of mental and physical strength for a woman of a certain social standard in the beginning of the 20th century. Judging by the way she expressed herself, in writing or in the various recordings of her voice, you would believe her to be a scholar, traveling in privileged conditions, while taking the time to reflect and construct an in-depth analysis of what she encounters. And while her other books speak of such travels, received by maharajas and royalty, living in relative luxury while observing, my journey to Lhassa speaks of endurance, of mere survival and the lessons learned on the way. Yes, a woman can cross the mountains and sleep in the woods and push the limits of her body, supported by a strong mind and a powerful goal. If she did it in 1924, just imagine what women can do today. Believe. Number 3. Inner and outer journeys. For the initiated person today, certain elements of Buddhist philosophy have become well known, even mainstream for some. But at the time she experienced this adventure, Europeans had mostly a Christian understanding of spirituality, deeply connected to the community and the ritual promoted by the church. Her way of absorbing as much information as she could from very diverse sources and different countries, and then living a recluded life trying to actually apply all she had learned, is a powerful lesson even today. She had a very intellectual way of describing Buddhism, but did not remain at the mind level. Instead, she explored the ways of the soul and of the spirit, and brought back to us a transcription of all that. Inspiring, especially for those who feel that meditation is not for them. Alexandra David-Néel was a restless child, as she very well admits right in the introduction. Ever since I was 5 years old, a tiny precocious child of Paris, I wished to move out of the narrow limits in which, like all children of my age, I was then kept. I craved to go beyond the garden gate, to follow the road that passed it by, and to set out for the unknown. But strangely enough, this unknown, fancied by my baby mind, always turned out to be a solitary spot where I could sit alone with no one near. And as the road toward it was close to me, I sought solitude behind any bush, any mound of sand that I could find in the garden, or wherever else my nurse took me. With time, her curiosity did not disappear. Instead, she added layers of knowledge by studying both philosophies and languages meant to open the doors of a new world. At the end of a lifetime of 100 years, she had preserved that same rebellious spirit as she had applied for a new passport just months before her death. But rebels we see every day. What made her so unique? Adding passion to rebellion. She had a cause, she knew why she took risks, and with the well-structured mind of an academic, she transformed her passion into an invaluable insight. This is the life lesson I choose to remember. Les choses de la nature paraissent posséder un langage spécial, intelligible semble-t-il à ceux qui ont vécu longtemps proches d'elles, attentifs et solitaires. Ou peut-être plus simplement, ces derniers déchiffrent-ils leurs propres pensées et leurs secrets pressentiments sur les énigmatiques physionomies des mots, des bois et des eaux. Le majestueux carpo, dressant haut dans le ciel clair la masse de ces glaciers bleuis par la pleine lune, m'a paru ce soir-là, non comme le farouche gardien d'une barrière infranchissable, mais plutôt tel qu'une déité vénérable et bienveillante, debout au seuil des solitudes mystiques, prête à accueillir et à protéger la voyageuse, quelque peu téméraire, que son amour du Tibet y ramenait. Nature has a language of its own, or maybe those who have lived long in solitude read in it their own unconscious inner feelings and mysterious foreknowledge. The majestic carpo, towering in a clear sky lit by a full moon, did not appear to me that evening as the menacing guardian of an impassable frontier. It looked more like a worshipful but affable deity standing at the threshold of a mystic land, ready to welcome and protect the adventurous lover of Tibet. If you like to travel, or only dream of it, this travel journal will fill your need of adventure with real and well-documented stories of a woman who dared to dream. The journey has just begun, and I sincerely hope your enthusiasm for Alexandra David-Neel's Tibet is rising. We shall meet in our next episode to explore some Tibetan rituals that bring us closer to the book. Until then, enjoy your reading.